Guys, how are you doing today? Welcome back to Random Lifestyle Vlog. If you're new here, my name is Paulina and this channel is all about beauty that includes skincare, makeup and fragrances. Talking about fragrances, today we're going to review the newest addition to the Black Opium fragrance range, and this is Eau de Parfum Over Red. So this is a flanker of a very popular fragrance, Black Opium, that was released by Yves Saint Laurent in 2014. This original fragrance instantly became extremely popular, like to the point that every other person on the street almost wore this fragrance. And this fragrance was not only loved by so many people and worn by so many people, but it also had this massive sillage and a really good lasting power. But as with pretty much every super popular fragrance, the Black Opium was loved as much as it was hated, literally. There were like always people who couldn't stand it. It was just too strong, too popular, and generally this fragrance was like not for everyone. This was like a really strong sweet coffee fragrance with some floral notes, so obviously this is not the type of fragrance that's going to appeal to everyone, right? I'll personally put myself like somewhere in the middle. I kind of like this fragrance, but not on myself. Also at some point I was a little bit like too fed up with it because everyone wore it, but I didn't hate it. I just couldn't wear it. But then on the other hand, there are some flankers that were released later on that I absolutely love. So this fragrance had multiple flankers. I think they released a flanker every single year, and these fragrances were usually pretty similar to the original scent. That doesn't mean that they were identical. They did have some differences, those little tweaks that didn't really change the whole vibe of the fragrance, but sometimes a little adjustment was enough for me to literally love this fragrance or not to be able to stand it. So up until now I have loved only 3 flankers, and I actually own all 3 of them. And not to get into too much details, I'm just going to quickly mention the ones I like the most. So this is going to be Black Opium Intense. This is the one in this kind of like a deep blue bottle. This fragrance, it is actually pretty similar to the original fragrance. We definitely have quite a lot of this original DNA, so it's floral, coffee, but it does have absinthe note in it, which is actually quite prominent, and this note changes everything for me. This fragrance becomes like more aromatic, and I think this kind of like coffee floral concoction is a little bit more balanced through that. So this is definitely one of the fragrances I like. Then we have Nuit Blanche, and this one is just so good. This one is amazing. It's pretty unique, I would say. It's like tonic, it's a bit musky, it has notes of rice, of coriander. It also has a little bit of caramel too, so it is just stunning. And I really loved their last year's release, which was Le Parfum, and this one was like this delicious vanilla with some cinnamon and then a little bit of the original DNA. I mean, not just a little bit, it was noticeable there, but it was like mostly vanilla. It was really good if you like your heavy vanilla fragrances. So when I saw this year's release, I was actually really excited because it does contain cherry. And I really love this cherry note in perfumes, although I'm not a fan of the cherry flavor in general. So this is the bottle. As you can see, it has this deep dark shade. It's actually really pretty. Also, I think this color kind of makes sense around this time of the year, like, you know, the Valentine's Day and everything. So yeah, that is pretty cool. So let's have a look at the notes together. So the top notes here are cherry and green mandarin. Then the middle notes of jasmine, orange blossom and black tea. And then base notes of Madagascar vanilla, coffee and Indonesian patchouli leaf. The opening of this fragrance is just stunning. Like, you have this really strong cherry note, but this is not your fresh, like freshly picked cherry. It's nothing like that. It is kind of like a dark, jammy cherry. It's just so good. Unfortunately, this cherry note kind of like disappears slightly. With time. It's just like super strong in the opening, but then it kind of like settles down and it's still there, but it's not super prominent. So what we've got in the dry down actually reminds me quite a lot of the last year's release, which was Le Parfum, which was the vanilla one. So we have this original DNA combined with like a very potent vanilla note, but then we have like this additional layer of airiness, lightness, freshness. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but this is caused by this black tea. this note is actually pretty prominent there, and I have to admit I actually really enjoy this dry down. I think this black tea, cherry, vanilla and the original DNA actually work pretty nice together, and the fragrance is really beautiful. In my opinion, like definitely so much better than the original, but as I said, I'm not a massive fan of the original scent. I wish this cherry note was a little bit more pronounced, so that's the biggest problem I have with this fragrance. Other than that, it does last for ages, like pretty much every single Black Opium flanker. I mean, these are really safe buys if you want something that's going to stay with you the whole day. It's definitely a pretty strong fragrance. It has quite a good sillage, so I would not describe this fragrance as office friendly, but again, this is something that's very typical to Black Opium. Black Opium fragrances are usually more like a statement fragrances that definitely going to make an impression. They're going to be noticed. So is it worth buying? I mean, I blind bought this fragrance because I was expecting like a lot of cherry, and what I've got is actually very pretty, but it's not as cherry heavy as I would like it to be. So if you're looking for Black Opium but with like really strong cherry note, you might be a little bit disappointed with it. I mean, this note is definitely there, but I wouldn't really say that this is the leading note in the composition. All in all, I don't regret buying it. It's like a really beautiful composition. I don't think I necessarily need it. I feel like having those 3 flankers I mentioned before, this is not particularly needed. Like, it doesn't really bring that much novelty to my collection to kind of like feel like I necessarily need it in my collection. But I mean, now that I have it, I'm definitely going to use it. It is definitely really pretty, and if you like kind of like sweet coffee concoctions and you don't own many Black Opium flankers and you're still looking for something that's going to steal your heart, I mean, give it a go. This is definitely a nice composition, a nice fragrance, long lasting, good sillage. Is it a safe blind buy? I mean, at this point, I guess everyone knows what they can expect from Black Opium. So I guess if you have an opinion about like Black Opium fragrances in general, you've tried like several of them, I guess you can blind buy it and you pretty much know what you're getting. So yeah, not super strong on cherry, but then on the other hand, this tea note is actually a really nice surprise. The general vibe of this fragrance is not so like deep and dark, but it has this kind of like a little bit of like more brightness to it due to that tea. Yeah, actually quite pretty. So anyway, have you tried this fragrance? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. For more fragrance related content, check those videos over here. I'm going to see you very soon. Take care. Bye.